Good evening. It's 6:30, and I'm going to call to order the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting for September 5th, 2023. We do have a quorum present. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the August 15th, 2023 meeting. If there are no additions or corrections, may I have a motion, please?
Move to approve.
Motion by Karen.
Second.
Second by Ryan. Vote now. Motion passes 5-0. The next item is a regular hearing, final plat of Tie Beam Ventures Incorporated. Addition is Lot 1R, Block A, on 1.12 acres out of the John H. Halford Survey, abstract number 545, zoned local commercial, located at 1175 Diane Circle, being a replat of Family Medical Association's Lot 1 and 2, Block A.
Good evening, Commission. Staff has reviewed this plat and recommends that the Planning and Zoning Commission disapprove the plat for all the deficiencies listed and delegate to staff the authority to accept and approve the plat once all of the listed deficiencies have been corrected.
Okay, thank you, John. Commissioners, any discussion, questions for staff on this item? If not, may I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve,
Disapprove.
a motion to disapprove the plat.
Okay, there's actually a whole way it should be said here. I don't see it on here, but
Second.
motion to disapprove, bringing it to the chair for signature when it's all approved. Thank you. Motion is by Rick and seconded by Jack. Vote now. Vote. Motion passes 5-0. The next item is a public hearing. It's just in consideration of a zone change from agricultural open space district to light industrial district on 3.974 acres out of the P. Harmonson Survey, abstract 604. This is located on the southeast corner of State Highway 121 Business and West Vista Ridge Mall Drive, as requested by Hawkeye Realty Schreiber, LP, the property owner.
Good evening, Commissioners. This zone change for this location was incorrectly advertised. The acreage that was provided on all the mailed-in notices used the acreage that was found on the Denton County Appraisal District and not the acreage that we received in the meets and bounds description, which was a more exact measurement of this. Because of this, staff recommends that the public hearing for this item be continued to the September 19th Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, thank you, John. What is the correct acreage?
I believe it's 3.8 is what was listed, and it was maybe 4.2 or 4.12. It was only the difference of a couple hundred square feet.
Okay, okay. All right. Commissioners, any discussion, questions on this item? Okay. May I have a motion, please?
Move to open and continue the public hearing to the September 18th.
19th.
Is it the 19th? This is 18th. 19th, 2023 meeting.
No, that's what I'm doing.
Thank you for correcting.
Okay, motion is by Karen.
I'll second.
Second by Ryan. Vote now. Okay, this item will be continued to public hearing on, I heard you say the 19th, John. 19th, okay, because it did say the 18th on the, okay. All right. Public hearing is for item number 4 is a consideration of a zone change request from Plan Development Estate Townhouse to Plan Development Mixed Use. It's on approximately 7.288 acres out of the El Bourgeois Survey, abstract number 52, located at the west side of Euchre Lane, including 2328, 2316, 2304, and 2274 South Euchre Lane, as requested by Josh Barton and Patricia Fant McAdams on behalf of DMR Homes and Construction LP, the property owner.
Good evening, Commissioners. So for this item, we're looking at the Parks at Euchre plan development. So this previously went before Planning Zoning Commission, City Council, and was approved as the South Euchre development. So they're coming with a new proposal for the site and make some changes to the PD. So with this zone change request, they're looking to update the Plan Development Estate Townhouse District to Plan Development Mixed Use. So the previous PD called for 36 detached front entry lots, many backing to the open space, and I'll pull up a comparison here of the previous one. So on the left, you'll be able to see the previous layout, on the right, the updated plan. Due to the cost and interest rate escalation, the developer has revised to townhomes that are rear entry and face the open space. The applicant aims to rezone the property to Plan Development Mixed Use, proposing 56 attached residential lots and 2 detached residential lots. The central open space, preserving extra-large post oak trees, has been reduced in size, but now has streets along 3 sides instead of 1, making it more visible and accessible. Street stub outs to the north and south property lines will facilitate the future expansion of the neighborhood. The base MU zoning district allows for both attached and detached products. Detached single-family homes should have a minimum lot size of 4,000 square feet, and per the proposed plan development, this is reduced to 3,375. Attached lots should have a minimum lot size of 1,700 square feet, and per the proposed PD, 1,540 is proposed. Lot width requirements are met and depths are reduced by 5 feet for the attached homes. Staff has no objection to these reductions as it allows for a larger park area and a rear entry product. The applicant has also agreed to sell no more than 3 lots to the same entity. The home products provided are rear entry. Provisions are included with the PD mandating a minimum of 60% brick veneer and requiring architectural enhancements. All units will maintain 5-foot setbacks, 6.5-foot side yard setbacks on the sides of the buildings, and 20-foot rear yard setbacks to allow parking behind the garage. The proposed minimum dwelling unit size is 1,400 square feet and 1,200 square feet for attached units, which exceeds the minimum 1,000 square feet required. So the central open space is going to be 1.75 acres, and it's going to be designated as an open space area. This constitutes approximately 24% of the total property. The area boasts dense native post oak tree coverage. The land could be dedicated to the city, satisfying park dedication requirements. Park staff has conducted a site assessment and confirmed its suitability as a park. Alternatively, the applicant has the option to retain it as a private open space and pay all associated fees. The open space has public streets on 3 sides, promoting a good access and visibility I spoke to earlier. The existing home's foundation area within the open space holds potential for future amenity use. New landscaping trees will be mandatory on individual lots during the building permit stage. A 15-foot landscape buffer along Euchre Drive consisting of existing trees will be established, and each detached lot will feature 1 ornamental tree, and attached unit lots will have foundation shrub plantings. The 3 streets constructed for the subdivision will adhere to the standard street sections outlined by the City of Lewisville Unified Development Code, with a 53-foot right-of-way and a 31-foot pavement width, shown here. This allows for street trees and 5-foot sidewalk, 5-foot wide sidewalks. Furthermore, right-of-way will be designated along Euchre Lane to satisfy the required 60-foot of right-of-way for the collector road. Presently, Euchre Lane is an asphalt road that falls short of city standards. The developer will need to build or escrow for the half street adjacent to the development. Stub outs will be required or will be provided to the north and south for the future developments. As for screening, the 3 streets constructed for the subdivision are To the west, adjacent to the multifamily development, is a significant grade and extensive tree cover. While many of these trees will likely be removed to grade pad sites for homes, some trees on the edge of the property will be maintained. The applicant plans to build a 6-foot tall wood board on board privacy fence for screening in lieu of the masonry wall. The wood fence will be able to meander around existing mature trees in that area. The responsibility for building the screening wall is usually the multifamily development. However, there is not a wall in place. Screening is not required to the north or south of the property. However, based on existing conditions, the applicant desires to provide a temporary 6-foot fence, at least until the adjacent property redevelops. It is anticipated that there will likely be a redevelopment as a single-family residential. The fence will be placed in a 2-foot wide lot that will be an easement, allowing the adjacent property to remove the fence and connect to the street. Fencing will be allowed until such time the adjacent development needs to connect the streets. And the intent is to remove the fence to allow the properties to the north and south to connect at that future date. The easement language will be formalized and recorded at the time of platting. In summary, the proposed changes switch the product from detached to attached homes to address changing market conditions. The open space is reduced slightly, which is offset by the increased visibility and access with the streets on 3 sides, as shown here. Staff finds the applicant consistent with the 2025 plan, big moves of thriving neighborhoods. And with that, staff recommends that the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend approval of the zone change request from Plan Development Estate Townhouse to Plan Development Mixed Use as presented. I'm available for any questions if you have any.
Joe, I have a couple. What's the reasoning behind them agreeing not to sell to more than 3 residences to one entity?
It's just to prevent from one developer coming in and buying all the houses and then
Okay.
renting them out.
Okay, I just didn't really know, and I felt like maybe some other people didn't know either.
Yeah, or owner, I should say.
On the screening fence, not the temporary one, but the screening fence you mentioned first, who's responsible for maintaining that?
They would be,
Okay, because it's not going to be a wall, it's going to be a fence.
right, on the north and south side.
Yeah, and that certainly is going to wear off or wear down faster than the wall. And the other one is, we've had some folks come here before, if I'm reading this correctly, their driveways are gonna back right into this fence. If they back out of their garage into the driveway, and they'll be right, this fence right behind them. We've had some things come before us before, where they were concerned about there being enough room to do that, to make the turns out. Have we considered that, and are we sure that we have got that covered?
I'm not aware of that being an issue. I haven't dealt with a specific case with those being a problem, but I'm sure that that will be something that will be addressed with the construction plans.
Okay, because I know it has in other neighborhoods, they've come before us, and that's been an issue. Okay, that's all I have for you, Joe.
I have a question. Do we know if this developer, there's quite a few, there's a lot more land past that. It goes all the way down to the end of Euchre, turns back to the east. It's all gonna be developed. They're tearing the houses down and so forth. Do we know if he owns any more of those lots in there? Or is this, do we know if this is all the property that he has there?
So this developer does not own any of the adjacent property that's currently vacant. The developer did reach out to try to purchase that and add it to his project, but was unsuccessful in that attempt.
Okay, so someone could come in and we could have variations of townhouses or whatever along here, since it's gonna be different people building.
It could be different people building. We wanted to make sure that this layout allowed for flexibility for street connectivity and things, so that's why there's stub outs, so that we can have continuous streets, because they would be required to kind of tie and extend those streets. It could be different developers at different times, which would be fine because there's a lot of flexibility and opportunity there. It could be townhomes, it could be single family, but either way, it would have to come before this committee for a rezoning, because it's currently zoned agricultural open space.
Thank you.
I have a question, I guess, 3 of them. Can you tell me a little bit about the temporary detention pond and how temporary is temporary?
So that was in hopes that he could acquire those properties to the north, and then do a larger detention pond farther north, potentially in the future. But it will likely remain if he's not able to acquire those properties.
Is the plan for the development to be served by standard sanitation for single-family garbage and recycling pickup, or is there a common trash and recycling area?
It would be the standard along the alley.
That goes to the question of is having space to do that, because they do eat up some space.
So to answer the space question, it is a 20-foot alley with 15 feet of pavement. And the homes are set back 20 feet from the alley, so the cars actually have a full parking space behind the home.
Okay.
Okay.
And at our last meeting, I believe we heard about a planned development for along Round Grove at Euchre. Do we have any idea of when these are in sequence, or will they be going at the same time?
Yes, it's very possible they're under construction at the same time.
Wow. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, thanks, Joe. At this time, I will go ahead and open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, please come forward, sign in, state your name, and we'll be happy to hear from you. Having no one come forward, I will go ahead now and close the public hearing on agenda item number 4. Commissioners, if there is no discussion or further questions, may I have a motion, please?
I'm gonna try this again.
Okay.
Sorry.
Motions by Ryan.
I'll motion to approve, recommended approval for the zone change request as presented.
Thank you, Ryan.
Second.
Seconded by Rick. Yep. Vote now. Motion passes 5-0.
Commissioners, this item will appear on the City Council agenda on October 2nd, 2023 at 7:00 p.m. for a second public hearing and a final decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next item is another public hearing. This is consideration of a zone change from agricultural open space district and light industrial district to planned development multifamily 3 on 6.74 acres out of the SM Hayden Survey, abstract 537A, located at 1910 and 1914 East State Highway 121 Business, as requested by Spence Miller of Chaparral Partners, the applicant, on behalf of 1910 East Highway 121 Series of the Realty LLC and Texas Junket Inn LLC, the property owners.
Commissioners, the property is located at 1910 and 1914 East State Highway 121 Business are currently used as salvage yards. The applicant is proposing to redevelop these two parcels into a multifamily development. This multifamily development will feature 3 4-story buildings going around the perimeter of this site with surface parking in the middle. There will also be tuck-under parking to each of these buildings around the interior of this site. It's proposed to have 251 residential units. 65% of these units will be 1 bedroom, while the remaining will be 2-bedroom units. There is gated access off of Midway Road and State Highway 121, though there's a parking area in front of State Highway 121 which will not be gated. The amenities for this apartment complex are as follows. There's an interior clubhouse, there's a dog run, a swimming pool area, and a grill area. The applicant has proposed 50% brick facades on the street-facing facades along 121 Business and Midway, and 20% brick facades along the remaining elevations. There are a number of deviations from the code proposed with this plan development. Several of these are a part of the PD standards, such as building height exceptions and setbacks, And then several can be administrative modifications, which are approved by staff. There's remaining 4 alternative standards that are required with this. The first alternative standard is to reduce the landscaping strip from 30 feet to 20 feet along State Highway 121 Business. Lewisville's Unified Development Code requires that the landscape buffer be 30 feet with a row of shade trees, a row of understory trees, and a row of shrubs. There is a provision to reduce this to a 10-foot buffer with 1 tree every 50 feet if the applicant is providing 80% brick or stone along this corridor. The applicant is meeting us in the middle here and providing 50% brick while still providing a 20-foot landscape buffer. In this buffer, they're providing all of the required landscaping that would be required if it were a full 30-foot buffer. In a similar fashion, they're requesting a reduced landscape buffer along Midway. This is from the 30-foot buffer to a 15-foot buffer. Here they're providing all the required shade and ornamental trees or understory trees, but they are not providing the shrubs as the building is right at this 15-foot line along Midway Street. A third alternative standard is regarding the screening to the east of the property. This is between this current property and the remaining salvage yards to the east. Here, there's already a screening wall that is existing. The applicant is proposing a wood board-on-board cedar fence in lieu of the required masonry wall. And also, they are still providing the live screening required for this area. Staff has no objection to this alternative standard request as there's already a screening wall here. And with this development, there may be anticipated redevelopment for these remaining locations. Finally, there is an alternative standard to the parking standards. The Lewisville Unified Development Code requires 2 parking spaces for every unit of a multifamily complex. They're requesting 1.6 per unit. This is a common alternative standard that was granted with recent developments such as Palladium and the Aura Old Town. The Lewisville 2025 Vision Plan Update designates this area as diverse and thriving neighborhoods. Staff feels that a multifamily neighborhood fits this most directly because of the traffic from 121 Business. So this is the type of neighborhood that would be most appropriate in this location. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. The applicants are here and have a presentation following mine.
I guess my question, John, is this going to be, it looked to me on the map, the first development of a neighborhood in this area.
Sorry?
This is going to be the first neighborhood development in this area. It's surrounded by the light industrial and agricultural open space, and I don't see any other neighborhoods in there.
Just 2 parcels to the east, there is another multifamily development. You can see
Okay.
on the map right here. And then there's a further, past this, there is further multifamily developments along this corridor.
Okay, okay. I guess I didn't see that on the map I had.
Yeah, so just off the aerial map that's included in the packet, just to the east is Crown Center development in Castle Hills, which will be a kind of a mixed-use area that includes multifamily as well as commercial uses.
Okay. All right.
I have a question of staff. As it relates to the parking lot design, is the provision of the islands, is that up to standard? Is it?
Yes, it's a requirement of 1 parking lot island for every 15 spaces. Furthermore, at the end of each item, they're required to plant trees, which the applicant has, as seen on this, the landscape sheet.
And this, so it does meet requirements? Okay.
Right, so when reviewing this, we just take the total amount of parking spaces, divide that by 15, and make sure there's at least that amount, plus trees capping each of these rows.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Anybody else? Okay, at this time, I will go ahead and open the public hearing. And I do understand that Mr. Miller would like to speak.
Good evening, Commissioners. Hope you all are doing well tonight. I'm Spence Miller with Chaparral Partners. I'm joined with Maxwell Fisher, who's working on the project with us tonight. I'm going to let him speak to this presentation here in just a moment. I just wanted to introduce myself so that you could put a face with a name. Chaparral Partners is a multifamily investment firm, both development and acquisitions here in Texas. This site is a special one to me. It's something I've been looking at for several years, even with my previous employer. I've spoken with many of the staff members and other city professionals about what it would look like to redevelop this. I've worked on several developments here in the city of Lewisville and have loved every single one. And I think this corridor has a great vision. And I certainly believe that replacing the existing uses with the project that we've brought forth would be a great catalyst for redeveloping the whole area. So with that, I'll let Maxwell jump in here. We'll be talking about a lot of the stuff that John's already spoken to, but.
I'll be brief. Maxwell Fisher with Zone Dev 2502 Grandview Drive, Richardson, Texas 75080, representing Chaparral Partners. Staff did a great job of going through most of these, replacing two auto salvage yards, which we're excited about. Not only will it clear up all the basically the eyesore that's there, but we're replacing it with a nice-looking building. The staff did a great job in having us push the buildings to the street, provide landscaping, enhance materials to really continue to improve this corridor. So this would be a 4-story development. It's all 1- and 2-bedroom units. It's elevator served because it's 4-story, well amenitized, tuck under garages, which is sort of an industry standard now. So we think we're bringing in a Class A development that continues the transition away from very heavy industrial, commercial uses in this corridor. Here's the elevation that shows heavy vertical and horizontal articulation. As I mentioned, staff worked with us on providing the brick and stone, or in this case, brick, on the facade, as well as some other materials. These are actual renderings of what it would look like. Staff did a good job of going over all the variances or alternative standards. Be happy to answer any questions connected to those, but won't rehash those unless we need to. We think the proposal aligns with the comprehensive plan. It's expanding the housing options that you have available. Adding more supply keeps the rents in check as well. Both things align with the comprehensive plan. So we'd ask you to support this request to remove the auto salvage facility and to accommodate a new multifamily development. It'll provide increased aesthetics, and we believe it aligns with the comp plan, and staff's in support of this request. So we'll be happy to answer any questions.
I have a couple. And I'll ask both of them, and then you can address those. I need a kind of a education on what a tuck-under garage is, firstly. Sure. And secondly, do you expect any site cleanup, like maybe not toward a brownfield, but because that's been auto storage?
Sure, I'll let Spence answer that second question. But the first question is, a tuck-under garage is basically just a garage. It's actually part of the ground floor multifamily unit, just like you would at your home. It's just ground floor, and it's embedded, or as part of the development.
I've not heard the term before.
Yeah. I'll let Spence answer the question.
I guess I should say, unfortunately, the answer is yes. There was probably not a world where we would go digging in on the due diligence of those sites and not find some cleanup. Luckily, I've got a great team of engineers who I have contracted to help me do that research, figure out what issues there might be, and luckily they're not as bad as they could be. So we have figured out the issues, and many of them are things that would be taken care of during the site development process itself. It's a site where we're going to have to bring in soils to bring the grade up to actually finish the buildings. So there were some issues, but luckily they were things that we've been able to work through. It is added cost to the project, which is unfortunate. But again, this just comes back to the vision of the project here, and any issues we have come about to this point on the site, we believe are worth it to build a good project.
Do you know what the price point on these, whether they're, I guess, townhomes, whether they're rented or purchased, what is the price point on them?
On average, we think they'll be in the $1,800 range.
For a one-bedroom?
No, for just across the board. For that, if you break it down, that'll be, call it in the $1,500 range and below for the one bedrooms, $1,200 to $1,500, and then upwards of $2,000 for the twos.
Okay.
And those unit sizes will obviously range, smaller one bedrooms, larger ones, and same with the two bedrooms.
Okay, okay.
I have a question. On the environmental remediation of the soil, of anything that you find out there, and I guess to staff, maybe a question, does the city follow along with that and monitor what they find and make decisions based on any environmental issues that come up that they might find out there? I mean, it's a salvage yard. Cars have been sitting there for a long time, and probably a lot of other stuff that may leak into the ground and all kinds of stuff. And so how do we make sure that they get rid of everything that needs to be gone from there?
Well, I will at least say that I have been very open book with staff. I've also had lots of great conversations with Marichelle Samples and with Richard about some of the issues. There was an additional site here that was included, and it had enough issues on it that we decided that it no longer made sense. It had enough work to be done that it didn't fit into the project anymore. And it's on one of the sites next door, which is unfortunate because we were excited about being able to redevelop all the way up to the corner. I will say, just to get into the weeds of it, the results we found on our existing site, we were fortunate enough that it's all, I'll describe it at the surface level. And that's why I mentioned that the surface level issues that we may have found are all things that are going to be removed when we actually go begin our site work and lay utilities and start to pour foundations. So although there's added cost, they're all issues that we believe we can resolve, and they're all things that we know, we're working through the process right now, but they're all things that we know that we would get approvals from the TCEQ, which ultimately is the governing authority on these things. And that's exciting for us, and those are things that we have been open book about with staff.
The staff will work very closely with the developer. I'm sure there will be an environmental consulting engineer involved as the go-between between the developer and the city and TCEQ. So we've had several other sites that had similar situations, and it really takes a partnership to see it through and make sure everything gets corrected or gets done correctly.
Thank you.
One question for me is, has there been a traffic study done to any potential impact of the operations of 121? In terms of flow, and I believe that's the TxDOT right of way.
Yes. We have not done a specific traffic impact analysis. I do know there was a lot of, I'm using the same civil engineer here that has worked on the Aura projects, just a couple hundred feet away. And I believe similar analyses were performed on those projects. And I don't believe that there's any negative impact to what we're doing. And luckily, these drive approaches are pre-existing as far as our site goes. So there will be some work with TxDOT as it relates to turn lanes and such. But we do believe, based on the traffic counts today and the impact that we're going to have, that it will, no issues will arise.
I want to note that Lewisville's engineering department reviews all of the plan developments as well, and as if there's any concern about that, the engineering department would have made those comments and made sure it was taken care of.
I just, away from the main entries on 121, I'm at a loss for where the signals are upstream and downstream.
That whole situation will be looked at a little bit closer level once it gets to an engineering site plan and permitting process. But I will add too that the Crown Center development, which is only 400 feet to the east, had a very detailed traffic study on the entire, traffic analysis done on the entire area. And there is plenty of capacity on the road network in that area. So I think therefore staff really did not have any concerns with traffic for this project in this general area of the city.
Thank you very much.
I have just one additional question that might help clear up. I believe in the landscape plan, the westernmost entrance, that's gated, correct? You
I'm
mind
sorry,
just-
what was that?
The westernmost entrance on Highway 121 there, that's a gated entrance?
Off of 121?
Yeah.
Yes, that's correct. I'll speak to it. That's mainly an emergency access only for fire. That was a request for hose lay needs.
Yeah, so most all traffic will go through that turn lane
That's
on the eastern side, which has no gate until you get further in. And is that what's prompted the live-work units? Is that a city
That was-
requirement? for the
Yeah,
people?
thank you for bringing that. And you can see, you called it out right there, the decel lane that we have into that main entry, puts you back that much further from the light. But yes, we are showing some live work units on the front there of the building fronting 121. We discussed this at length with staff. It was part of our original plan to be back on Midway. Part of that is just to, again, for the thriving nature of the area, and with what Crown Center is doing, really trying to activate the streets. It's not guaranteed, obviously, to this point, exactly what a live-work concept will do, but it was discussed with staff that this would be a good starting point to at least try and offer some of those up on 121. These are not full-blown retail units. I'm sure y'all have heard the live-work term before. We thought this would be a good place to start up there, so.
Thank you for bringing that up. I failed to mention that in my presentation, but with many of our multifamily developments we have moving forward, we're trying to future-proof them and give them some additional utility for the future that can be converted in the time that maybe these can convert to a more retail-focused, to live-work style, just for these that still have the ability for public parking there without the gated access.
Yeah, I mean, really, my only thought or concern here when I first read it was whether or not that gate would operate as an exit though, correct? If someone pulls in and heads down to the west to the live-work units, do they have a turnaround within the drive, or do they exit out the gate?
There's it's a 26-foot fire lane there, which is an adequate maneuverability to get the cars back towards the eastern entrance.
Yeah, those will be non-reserved spaces, obviously, right? So,
Yeah.
okay. Was there a reason not to just keep it open as a slip road philosophy? Is it more of a traffic?
Yeah, it was a
Issue.
driveway spacing issue, but because it's emergency only,
Yeah.
transportation staff was okay with the way it's shown.
This is similar to the Aura project, correct? To the east, as far as the entry goes, or the Trinsic property to the east?
The
Yeah,
original one they built,
yeah, you
the
come in, I
three-story
think it's on
front.
the aerial, I think you can see it in the aerial, if you don't mind pulling that up. I think it's a similar entry philosophy, right? You come in, there's a slip road component, and then it transitioned to a gated section.
That's right, that's exactly right.
That one had a loop road around it, if I recall.
Yes, their entry was a little bit more
Outbound.
centered in the
Yeah.
site with the gates on either side. One of those was the primary entrance for visitors, obviously, with the call box. But that was the concept.
So in essence, it's a little bit of a dead-end drive there in the front corner where those live-work units are kind of located.
And we don't anticipate having tons of traffic
Through
from
traffic.
those. It would be few and far between if somebody had a small business and they had a customer come in. You know, we don't anticipate it being an issue.
That's right. I'll add that it's about having the optionality to be able to do it.
Okay, that's all I have.
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate your
you.
time.
Thank you very much.
Is there anyone else that wishes to speak on this item before I close the public hearing? This is on number 5. Is that, okay.
I'm not sure this is the place to ask, but my name's Michael Mahoney, and I live at 527 Barfnick Lane, just behind this area. And I just, more of the questions. So the development, they didn't want to develop where the gas station is? That was not the land you wanted to purchase, was where the gas station is on the corner there? Correct. Okay. So my question is, so that street is Holford's Prairie, that's right next to that gas station, and it has a right turn lane, and it has an acceleration lane to get onto 121. 121 is a 60 mile per hour zone, speed zone. And I'm just wondering if there's gonna be more cutout for another lane to the right of that accel lane to get into this property. That's all.
Yes, there's a proposed deceleration lane for the main entrance. You can kind of see it in that concept up there, how it kind of cuts down near that eastern. So that western entrance is gated, so you can't enter there. And then there's the deceleration lane for the main entrance there.
So you have the two TxDOT lanes, and you have the XL lane from Holford's Prairie, and then there's gonna be another lane to decel into the apartment building.
So you see there's that, and then this cuts down, right? So that right here. So this is a proposed shoulder here.
It's not clear, but I was just more concerned about that, because you have to accelerate into
Right, you see that?
traffic from here. As you can see, it's a right turn lane only there, and then, so this is from this lane here, there's another cutout here?
There's
Okay.
gonna be a cutout there.
Did you get your question answered? Okay, all right. Okay, good. Anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Okay, at this time, I will go ahead and close the public hearing for agenda item number 5. Commissioners, is there any discussion, questions?
Move to approve the zone change request as presented.
Motion by Karen,
I'll second.
second by Jack.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, is that Jack?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, for sure. Okay, I got confused. Vote now. Motion passes 5-0.
Commissioners, this item will appear before the City Council on Monday, October the 2nd, 2023, at 7:00 p.m. for a second public hearing and a final decision. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich. Okay, the next item is a continued item from 2 weeks ago. And I understand that Mr. Mahoney would like to speak on this item again. Okay, so if you'd like to go ahead and do that, as soon as he gets this cleared off here. While he's doing that, I'll read the item here. It's a consideration of a special use permit for a commercial amusement outdoor on approximately 3.17 acres out of the S.M. Hayden Survey, abstract number 537, Zone Light Industrial District, located at the east side of Barfneck Lane, approximately 1540 feet south of Midway Road, as requested by Ronald Weigall, Endurance Development, on behalf of Pathfinder Sports, LLC.
Good evening, Commissioner. So yeah, staff will be giving a presentation to just kind of recap the development, just to make sure we're, aware of it now. So yeah, the applicant is requesting a special use permit to operate a indoor and outdoor cricket sports facility. The Unified Development Code requires a special use permit with commercial amusement outdoor uses within the light industrial zoning district. The Planning and Zoning Commission continued the public hearing from the August 15th, 2023 Planning and Zoning Commission meeting to today, September 5th, 2023. The site is located at the end of Barfneck Lane in an area that is mostly industrial. To the north is the large auto auction, and to the south is the planned Republic hauling facility expansion. To the east and west are single-family homes zoned light industrial. The property to the west is light industrial, and to the east is agricultural open space. The applicant intends to develop a 19,200 square foot building for indoor cricket. A practice field is planned to the east side of the property to minimize noise and light impacts from outdoor activity for the home on the west side. A photometric plan is required with all engineering site plan submittals to ensure light spillover does not exceed the 0.2 foot candles at the property line. In addition, all lights must be shielded to prevent glare. I think it's also important to note that without a practice field, this does not require a special use permit. Commercial amusement indoor does not require a special use permit within the light industrial zoning district. The addition of the practice field is what requires that. As for parking and traffic, one parking space per 3,000, one parking space per 3 people is required for commercial amusement outdoor uses. 42 parking spaces are required for this development, and the applicant is proposing 55 spaces. Peak hours for this use would be evenings, after business hours, and weekends based on projected occupancy. These hours are offset from the surrounding uses, which see more morning and daytime traffic. At maximum occupancy, with people arriving and leaving, about 84 trips can be expected at peak times. This is a substantial increase in traffic. However, the light industrial zoning district allows uses that could have a more substantial impact on the road, such as a warehouse distribution facility with the truck traffic coming to and from. In addition, the Republic hauling facility expansion will be adding a cul-de-sac to the end of Barfneck Lane. As for screening, the proposed practice field will be situated on the eastern side of the property. The proposed building is strategically positioned between the field and the adjacent residential property to the west to minimize the impact of sound and lighting. The building's placement aims to minimize those impacts, and additionally, the type 1 screening will be provided between the proposed development and the single-family home, and that consists of a 10-foot landscape strip with a 6-foot tall screening wall. To the southeastern corner of the property, there's an adjoining single-family home. A substantial cluster of trees are located between the single-family home and the practice field, and the proposed outdoor field is approximately 150 feet from the shared property line, and the home located on the adjoining southeastern property is approximately 250 feet from that property line. It is approximately 340 feet in a direct path from the home to the field, and an administrative modification can be given to use the existing vegetation and screening rather than construct a masonry wall along the east property. And you can see it down here in the corner. This property over here, there's that cluster of trees. As for landscaping for the property, 8 trees are located within the landscape buffer along the property line adjoining the residential property to the west, and shrubs are planted along the entire property line as well. 12 trees are planted throughout the parking lot, exceeding the 3 required. The building will consist of stucco and concrete masonry units with a stone entrance on the east and north facade. The west facade facing Barfneck Lane and adjoining that residential property will consist of 75.6% stucco, 12.9% CMU, and 11.5% metal panel. Further, hours of operation were submitted to staff after the previous meeting, and Pathfinder Sports LLC, the property owner, intends to operate 7 days a week from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. Further, the following administrative modifications have been requested in conjunction with the special use permit, and staff has no objection and will approve the modification should the SUP be approved. And that is to reduce the required driveway spacing from 50 feet to 0 feet. With that, the applicant seeks a special use permit for an indoor and outdoor cricket sports facility within the light industrial district. The proposed facility includes a 19,200 square foot building and a practice field. Increased landscaping and building materials are provided with this request. Staff finds the request consistent with the big move of economic vitality from the 2025 plan, and that it meets the criteria listed in Chapter 3.9.2 of the UDC. Further, the property owner had submitted a letter prior to this meeting, and per state law mandates that a 3/4 vote by the Planning and Zoning Commission is required if the property constitutes 20% or more of the area within the 200-foot buffer from the subject property, if they protest. The provided data indicates that the total buffer area measures 598,599 square feet, or 13.74 acres. The protest was submitted by the owner of 527 Barfneck Lane, which encompasses 28,183 square feet, or 0.64 acres, representing just 4.7% of the total buffer area, so that 3/4 vote will not apply for this public hearing. And with that, city staff recommends that the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend approval of the special use permit as presented. Also, the item was continued and was not, and the public hearing was closed at the previous meeting, but the chair can take any questions or comments from the public if needed. Also, staff is available for any questions as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe.
We also have the applicant, Mr. Ron Weigel, here this evening.
Yeah, I'm actually not ready for you yet.
I'm sorry.
I will definitely let you know. I will definitely let you know. Okay. Do you all have any questions for staff?
Just one, what's the general condition of Barfneck Lane? Is it's a, what designation of road is it? Is it curb and gutter, sidewalks? What's the condition of that?
Currently, it's an asphalt bar ditch road.
And as previously described on another issue, when it gets to any needed impacts or operational issues associated with Barfneck, that's gonna come in terms of the engineering and the site design?
In regards to just the site layout, that would be handled with the engineering site plan.
So Barfneck is a local street per the thoroughfare plan. Should the SUP be approved, we would have a full engineering site plan done with grading plans and more detailed plans.
But there's no current plan for the developer to enhance or improve that section of the street?
They have a very minimal actual frontage on Barfneck Road. And how our ordinances are drafted is it's based on your frontage, your responsibility for improving the street.
Is the road, are there any lights on the road at all? Because it looks like it dead ends down here. So there's a long stretch back up to the Midway Road up here. Are there any sort, and you're gonna have traffic till 10 o'clock at night. It sounds, till 7 days a week, cars are gonna be going up and down here. Are there any lights on this street at all, lighting it up or anything?
I don't believe there is any currently, no.
So yes, it currently is a dead-end street. That's why the cul-de-sac is going to be added by Republic Calling with their expansion, because that will be where most of their staff enters from. So that will improve the end of the street. Barfneck Street doesn't currently meet street standards. The length of the street is currently not meeting the thoroughfare plan guidelines for it. So eventually, there's no current plans to update that street.
Okay.
Commissioners, I was just looking at Street View, and there is a street light on the western side, I believe just south of where this driveway is located. There is also a pole just to the, I believe, right in the vicinity of where this, just south of the proposed driveway, and that might be another potential location. But that's something that staff will look at as part of review of the engineering site plan.
Thank you. Do you mind briefly just touching on the 30-foot landscape buffer proposed between the property and the current owner? I see in the landscape drawing that it appears the majority of it is just sod. What are the base requirements for what's needed there in that 30-foot?
Yeah, I apologize. I didn't mean to interrupt you as well, but I apologize. I should have pulled this up here. This is the landscaping plan. This will show the trees being provided between the home and the building, and then the screening wall would be placed in between there as well.
So what's the fence is what material again?
It'd be a precast wall.
What's the, and I'm just reading this down at the bottom, it says new 6-foot wood fence, is that just in the southwest corner?
Yeah. The type 1 screening would be required on that property line there. So that would be something that would be seen with an engineering site plan if this were to be approved.
So the fence on the west side is a wood fence or a masonry fence?
There is a label on there that says wood fence currently. It needs to be a masonry fence or
Okay.
ordinance, yeah.
And the masonry wall is going to be a 6-foot minimum, is that true?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else for staff? Okay, thank you, John.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Mahoney, I've got your request to appear first, so if you would like to come forward and speak on this item. And maybe because we do have the owner here, they will be able to answer and address some of your questions after you're finished.
Thank you. My name is Michael Mahoney, and I live at 527 Barfink Lane, Lewisville, Texas, 75056. And I just want to be sure that, in the overall understanding of this opposition, I'm not opposed to a business starting up and a youth prep cricket field and all that, but it just seems at this time inappropriate for this area, this exact area. So aside from how it's going to affect the quality of life for myself and my neighbors. So we just really didn't have enough time because we just got the letter the day before the last hearing, so to try to prepare to, and didn't know that we could get a letter. So one of the questions I have for the council or the city is there any letters of approval for this project from anybody in the area?
Michelle, have you received any?
We didn't receive any letters from adjoining property owners.
Okay.
All right, so,
Thank
and
you.
then I just have this one letter in opposition, and I have several neighbors that are willing to do the same thing. It's just that perhaps our ignorance might be a technical disadvantage at this point. So I'm just gonna try to work through this from here. So the narrative letter had provided last hearing had provided the hours of operation, and it was 3 to 10 p.m. And now they've, according to the newer letter, that's expanded to 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. So in the broader sense of that, I'm not opposed to that, particular type of activity there. But, between hours of 6 and 10, it's just not every day. That's just not conducive to what for the neighborhood or or anything of my quality of life at all, or my neighbors. So, so that was one of the major objections, is just the time, that those
Okay.
hours of operation. It's a youth-based, cricket activity, and a lot of, there's gonna be events. So there's gonna be more traffic than what's there. They're, more than likely park up and down the street to see these events, which would make sense to me. That's gonna be a major issue. In my letter, I had, put pictures of the street. I don't know if you'd seen, how close it is. We have to actually drive on the dirt just to pass each other. There's gonna be additional traffic due to the Republic, moving their employee entrance to end of Barfnick Lane, between, in the morning and the evening times. So that will conflict also for the whole neighborhood based on that street. There's a 12-foot easement on each side of the street, and there's no drainage at all. It's somewhat drainage, but it doesn't work. I had some pictures of that, where the Metro Auto Auction actually drains its whole west side parking lot right into Barfnick Lane. And then there's a culvert under the road, and it just goes down, and there's two pictures of what that is. And during the rain, it floods over the top of the street. You can't pass, you can't park on there during the rain. It's like clay. You just get stuck. It's not conducive. There's no street lights. The light that referred to earlier is, that belongs to me. I pay for it to CoServe, for $12 or $13 a month. So that's a security light for my property. And each property has one, and it's not a street light. Doesn't illuminate the street at all.
Okay.
It's basically a security light that we all pay the CoServe for. So to me, as we talked about this with the neighborhood, the use doesn't seem to be compatible with surrounding land use as they're all residents, it's commercial. So as an open outdoor, there's nothing like that around. There's no neighborhoods, or it's put away. You have to drive through streets to get to it. It's not out in the open, or doesn't serve the public as well, let's say. So we think that there would be a way better place for that type of activity, other than this one. So, and like I said, I don't oppose it, but that particular thing. So the landscape buffer, so that's changed. So when the developer had spoken with us, they asked us, they tried to get us to write an approval letter for the project, but yet didn't explain everything that we were facing or were gonna face, and tried to, and basically hectored us to try to sign, give this letter to him. And they had talked about, we talked about a 10-foot fence, and the fences are in the neighboring commercial areas are 9 feet or 10 feet. The Metro Auction has a 70,000 volt electric fence right that borders this development, which doesn't seem conducive to me for youth activity fields with an electrified fence right there, next to the field on the north side there. It's also a sporting event, so there's gonna be injuries. So there could be traffic for emergency vehicles to come through there, and if there's no parking or they can't get through, that's a safety issue aside from that fence. The other, so as far as the comprehensive plan, it's the only open outdoor entertainment within at least 5 miles that we know of. We know that there's open parks. There's a cricket field. There's cricket fields at Railroad Park. So we know that it's way out. And then basically for the welfare, there's no restaurants or fast food or anything. It's basically just commercial residential. And it's, again, not being opposed to it, but it's definitely could be a better place, right, and not so interference with the traffic and the neighborhood. And then there's also, the reason the Metro auto auction put the electrified fence is because of the crime rate that they're having with that facility, where they come around down Barfnick and down that northern wall and climb in, break into, they've knocked the wall down, they drive cars out of there. It's all public, with the police department, so those concerns are there for that. As all the neighborhoods, we keep all security cameras and other security management, processes to ensure our safety, at least from that point, since the auto auction's been there, so. A big major part of this development would be, I don't have any protection from the drainage, from the rain at all. I'll have to incur that cost along my property lines in order to make sure that, which would be okay, but I mean, it's something to consider when it's, as a residence, right, or somebody living there, because I'm not sure anybody here in this room would want this to be next to their home. And I've lived there 17 years and raised my family, and I, spent my whole life working for this point of my life, right? And I just, I have getting closer to retirement, and I have health issues, and just trying to get settled in. So, again, I'm not opposed to this whole thing, but just not this place at this time. If they develop the street, put a better buffer between the residents, probably would be less of an issue. So the other thing I really wholeheartedly object to is the ask for the deviation on the ordinance on the driveway, because if you grant that to them, then it'll be borne on me, on my property, if I need to put a driveway there or anything, and I don't think that's fair that I would bear that compliance, that I would have to move my driveway if I redeveloped,
Okay.
So that's not fair. And then there's a turnoff on the driveway before the gate that goes right into my property. And that makes me think that the city or the owner assumes that they can just drive across my property to escape whatever they think they need that for. So I have to wholeheartedly object to any activity or access to that.
I wanted to be sure you understood that that business would and could be there as it is currently laid out. The only thing we're voting on now tonight is a special use permit
Right.
for the outdoor practice areas. It
Right.
seems to me some of the things you're bringing up have to do with the business itself and not just the outdoor practice fields. Am I understanding you?
No, so my whole objection is to the special use permit for open entertainment.
Okay.
That's just, to me,
All right,
this
okay.
whole thing
I
is,
just wanted to be sure I understood.
yeah, it's in opposition to that itself, because once that's established, then it creates everything else, so.
Okay.
It's just to that, it just doesn't fit the area, or the, at this time, right? So, I just feel that it should be, the other thing about it, there's no electrical utility, there's no plan for that, so there's nothing, we're not getting the whole story here about how, and that affects me, that's my pole that's almost in the middle of their driveway, so that supplies power to myself and my neighbors. And then the other pole is right in the middle of the field, their practice field, so that's not gonna work, right? So there's nothing in there for that. And then as far as the field, outdoor activities, the noise is gonna be the noise, that type of activity is gonna, it's youth sports, it's, the noise level is elevated. Inside the building, it's gonna reverberate, it's still gonna be there much more than they're disclosing. I think as far as opposing the special use permit, I think that's probably more of an issue is the safety of the street. It's just not, it's conducive to that whole thing. There's another business that parks the workers for the landscape company, and they walk down the middle of the street at those hours when they would be coming in, so, I mean, we have issue with that. with them, and they're not even, as far as we know, we're not even zoned for that. But that's all going on, and I put the pictures in there of how cars are parked in the street that would have to pass. So then there's definitely no room for 2 cars to pass when somebody's already on that street, because especially in the rain, you can't park in the mud because you'll get stuck, so you'll have to park on the street. So that'll always be restricted
Okay.
until that road's developed. So it just doesn't seem that that would be appropriate at this time we already have traffic from the Republic coming in and then this added to it. It's
Okay.
a particular type of thing.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mahoney. Maybe Mr. Weigel now could come and see if he can address some of your concerns?
Sure.
Okay. And here he is, Mr. Weigel.
Hi, may I get the site plan back up? Is that possible?
Yeah.
So I'm Ron Weigel. I'm privileged to represent Endurance Development, the owner's rep and the contractor, and as well as Charles Goger and Associates, the civil engineer of record. So as far as all the concerns, as far as drainage layout, electrical poles, all those things will be in compliance. They've already been in conversations. We just haven't moved full-fledged planning of having those things resolved on paper or on plans, right? We have to get over the SUP process. So all those matters will be resolved during planning. As far as hours of operation, let's talk about the outdoor fields. I'm sorry. So we originally had our outdoor fields adjacent to Mr. Mahoney's property, and through conversations with him and Berkshire Hathaway, we have redesigned that entire site to keep that on opposite end of the property to minimize noise and disturbances. In the beginning, it was on the east side. Now it's on the west side.
Okay. Is he aware of that?
I believe so, yes. We've been privileged of communicating with Mr. Mahoney for the last 11 months to try to get this
Okay.
resolved, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So you've moved the practice fields to the opposite side?
Yes, ma'am, yeah. And as far as concerns for lighting it, we will meet the minimal requirements based on the city of Lewisville's design standards. In my opinion, as far as doing engineering and development, I don't see a big impact on traffic of 29 spaces total. I know that the Barfneck is a smaller road, but I don't see that would require a traffic impact study, something of 29 spaces, in my opinion.
Okay.
Unless you guys state otherwise, of course, but. Yeah. I know there was, and also there was a concern about a property line discrepancy as far as his garage. So we've taken it upon ourselves from our conversations through a claim deed to reposition our property line away from his garage, so that can be resolved as well. We've already done that through the final plat process. That wasn't brought up, but that's been an ongoing discussion.
Okay. Commissioners, do you have any questions?
So basically, what I'm hearing from you is that a lot of these issues will be addressed with the site planning and the actual work.
Absolutely, yes, ma'am.
Real quick though, to clarify, I think he's talking about on-site issues,
Yes.
not the street.
That's correct.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
We're talking about, I think mostly this is about the practice fields. And because it
Yeah.
involves the SUP.
And last time we had the brief conversation amongst ourselves, I couldn't recall, without looking back at my notes, it is a lit outdoor practice field that would be open till 10 p.m.? Is
It
that?
will be, yes.
Okay.
But the plan is to have the non-glare lights and they will all be downward pointing.
Absolutely, yes, ma'am, yes.
Okay.
Focused on the practice fields, yes.
Any
And
other
we
comments?
we're very fortunate to have complete support with Berkshire Hathaway. We're working in conjunction with them as engineers and contractors to resolve some issues grading wise, so,
Okay.
yep. Is there anything else?
Can we ask Mr. Mahoney a question?
Yeah, sure.
Is that okay? Mr. Mahoney, moving the practice field to the west side, what does that take care of your concerns about the noise and the light and all that sort of stuff, or do you still think it's a problem?
It's still a problem because the noise is a noise, right? It's gonna come down that driveway and over that building, right? So, at first they presented us with practice cages. We were concerned about cricket balls coming over the fence, injuring us, our family. Now that's moved over there, I'm sure the auto auction may have concerns about cricket balls coming over and damaging vehicles. I don't know. I just understood that, you know, and then the other concern is that half that property to the south is not gonna be developed, and this would open up more development to more practice fields, right? So it's just.
Well, let's
that
not borrow
particular-
trouble.
Huh?
Let's not borrow anything, that's waiting.
Well, I know, but it's still, I mean, once that special use permit is approved as such, then that opens that up for even more, so, of course. But that's our main concern is it's not, it wasn't presented to us that way, so.
I understand. Okay.
And then in the fence line, you know, went from 10 in the narrative that they sent, it says 6 on the plan, it says 8 in the letter.
Well, that's
What is it?
We were in,
Let's get it, we had an email, it said 8, you know.
Yeah,
And the
okay.
composites changed and there's nothing's been said about it. We would, you know, if 8 or 10 were, you know, what is allowed, then that's what we would prefer between there, because that's more of a buffer for the noise, more of a buffer from cricket balls. That would be more acceptable.
Okay.
we would love the 8-foot fence, wood fence that we originally agreed on. That would be more cost effective for us, if that's what he prefers and you guys would allow, absolutely.
Okay, we can discuss that with city staff and see
Yes,
if
ma'am.
that's some change you want to make. Now, remembering that we only send this to the city council for their final determination.
Yes, ma'am.
So, Mr. Mahoney, and you said you may have other neighbors who may want to speak, then would be your time. Richard will tell us when we're finished discussing this tonight when it will be on the city council agenda. So you can then, we're not deciding it tonight, other than we're voting to either send it for approval or not send it for approval to the city council. Okay, all right.
As far as the A&E team, very reputable companies here in Dallas. Charles Gozier is a 51-year-old civil and structural engineering firm. It's done a wide range of projects. Oswaldo here is a architect of record as well. He's very, very knowledgeable,
Well, I have
so it's
no
in good
doubt.
hands.
Yeah, I have no doubt that the city will hold your feet to the fire as to what is appropriate, what's
Yes,
allowed.
they will. Yes, they will.
What is allowed by ordinance and all of that. So I trust that they'll take care of those things for
Yes, ma'am.
sure.
Anything else?
Not from me. Do you guys have anything else?
I just wanted to real quick confirm, it's obvious based on the layout that the practice fields, and I think we touched on this last time, the southernmost extent of the defined practice field is at the southernmost wall of the built structure. Is that a correct statement?
That is correct.
Is that defined or written anywhere in the documentation?
It's shown on this concept plan, which they need to follow.
Okay. And if, at least for my own, I've seen the sport, I've seen it over at McKinnish and Carrollton quite a bit. Do you mind just shedding some light onto how you do anticipate using the practice fields in the evenings?
In essence, they're batting cages. That's the best way I know how to explain it. It'll have heavy netting throughout to catch the balls.
So it's similar to a baseball?
Yes,
style?
absolutely. That's, in essence, that's what it is our batting cages, both exterior and interior.
Okay. And is the practice, the outdoor, an extension of the indoor is kind of what you were alluding to? Does it provide any different service? longer cages or?
Length is a little bit longer on the outdoor, yes. But it's obviously landscape at the end of the day, it's grass.
And there was a specific need or desire to have outdoor practice fields? Where I'm going with this is whether or not the structure increased and the, parking moved to the east and you didn't have to facilitate. What is the desire for the practice field versus the indoor?
It's desire of the coaching staff, part of the operations. Yeah,
But they're still serving the same function.
to a degree.
Okay.
Natural grass versus turf.
Correct, yeah. And we're very excited to be part of this project. There's this in Lewisville that we're proposing. There's a large one in Frisco. Grand Prairie has a large facility, and Grand Prairie, or forgive me, Grapevine is proposing a 9-acre outdoor facility. It's gaining popularity, even in Charlotte.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen it for sure.
But not next to your residence or anybody else's residence.
As a follow-on, so the practice field will be netted.
Absolutely,
Okay.
yes.
So there will, the arrangements of the facilities be around that power pole that was mentioned before? Will it
Power
require
poles-
to be moved?
Absolutely, they'll all be relocated. I've already been in conversations with the electrical provider along the north property line. All of it will be repositioned. Does that answer your question, Mr. Tidwell?
I believe so.
Okay.
In terms of the netting, I've never seen a practice field in operation. The issue of cricket balls leaving the park, is that an issue, or they will stay within the park?
No, sir. The structural engineer is going to design concrete beams to support poles, to support nets, all the way around.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I think we can probably go ahead and close this down for tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, may I have a motion on this item, please?
Move to approve the special use permit as presented.
Motion is by Rick.
I'll second.
Second by Karen. Vote now. The motion passes 5-0.
Commissioners, this item will appear on the City Council agenda on Monday, September 18th, 2023, at 7:00 p.m. for a second public hearing and a final decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda for this evening is adjournment. May I have a motion, please?
Motion to adjourn.
Motion is by Rick,
I'm not gonna step on you this time.
I'll second.
second by Ryan. Vote now. Motion passes 5-0. We are adjourned.